Before I get started, I just want to say this to you. Just because you forgive someone does not mean you have to welcome them back into your life. Okay, let's go. Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Andrea Joyce. How are you doing this morning? I am back and I'm excited to be here with you. It has been a moment. Welcome to Word in the House Ministries. I am Andrea Joyce, your host. I am here to just guide you through the Word of God. We're going to work together. Please feel free to email me at AndreaJoyceMedia@gmail.com if you have any questions, concerns, anything you want to have addressed, anything we need to talk to or talk about. I'm sorry, anything that you feel that you want to connect with me with. Okay. You can find me on my socials, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, my Andrea Joyce Media, author Andrea Joyce. Um, this morning, I want to come to you humbly because I was supposed to speak on the love series years ago. As you know, I have done this series a few times, right? And having done this series, I thought I was done with it. But God gave it back to me a couple of years ago, and I was supposed to do it. I think I started, but I stopped. Distractions came in, all kinds of things were happening. So I didn't get to complete it. And if you know God like I know God, if you don't finish something, He is going to welcome you back in to finish it. So I'm glad and grateful for another chance to get it done. The other thing is when I do this series, I go in order of the scripture. Love is patient, love is kind, and it comes from First Corinthians 13. However, this time around, and maybe it's because of the season that I waited to do it in, God has me doing it differently. I'm not doing this in order of the scripture. I'm doing this in order of what God places on my heart to share with you. So forgive me. I would love to start it from the beginning, from the top, and go down. However, there is a pressing. And if you know anything about a pressing, you got to get that pressing out. Otherwise, it will sit with you and not allow you any rest or any sleep. That's a word for somebody. You got to keep pressing. You got to keep going. This is the season of pressing. I'm going to tell you, it may not always be comfortable. It may not always be ideal, but you need to press this season. All right. If you're with me, we're going to go a couple of places today, okay? I first want us to start with First Corinthians 13, verse 5, the B clause, and it says, love keeps no record of wrongs. We're going to talk about that today. However, in the midst of talking about love keeping no record of wrongs, I need to segue into forgiveness. We got to talk about it, and it's been on my heart. And God deals with me when it comes to faith, when it comes to forgiveness. There are a couple of things that God just won't let me go of. He's like, I planted you here to talk about all kinds of things, but I definitely want you to focus on this. So I want to say to you today, let's talk about forgiveness for a moment before we get into the text and before we get into our points. Forgiveness, true forgiveness, which is what this is talking about. This scripture is talking about love keeping no record of wrongs. It is talking about forgiveness and the fact that when you really and truly forgive someone, you do not keep bringing it up to them. You do not keep bringing it up. Slick talk, subtext is none of that. You are done with it. Now, it does not mean you don't have feelings about it. It doesn't mean you don't remember it, but you don't keep bringing it up to the person who has wronged you, the person who has disappointed you, the person who has let you down, the person who has done whatever they have done directly or indirectly. You have made a wash of it. Think about it when God forgives you. God truly forgives you. He doesn't forget, but he doesn't remind you. He doesn't hold you to make you feel guilty. He doesn't make you feel bad about yourself. He doesn't make you second guess yourself. He doesn't make you shuck and jive and do dances to make him happy and laugh at you. He doesn't perform like that. He doesn't move like that. So I want to say to you today, when you truly forgive somebody, you will not bring it up even when it reminds you, or they do something that reminds you of the very thing you have forgiven them for. Can I tell you that? Even when there comes a point in time where they start to move in a manner like they moved before and they hurt you, you don't say, don't you do that. Because you remember last time you did that, you broke my heart and this happened and that happened and the other. No, you give them rope and allow them to move in the manner that they're going to move in. Here's something too. When you come out of one relationship, you're supposed to heal, right? And when you go into another relationship, you're not supposed to bring the baggage from your past relationship into your new relationship. Do you know why? Because Johnny is not Jimmy. Jimmy may have broken your heart and done A, B, C, all the way through Z and hurt you, but that doesn't, and I hope I said Jimmy because Jimmy is the one. Johnny had nothing to do with you and Jimmy. He wasn't around, he didn't do it. It's not on him. So even if Johnny begins to do some things that remind you of Jimmy, I need you to put in your mind, Johnny is not Jimmy. Johnny is not the one responsible for breaking your heart 20 years ago. Johnny is not the person who let you down 5 years ago. Johnny is not the person you were with in a prior relationship that cheated on you or lied to you or played in your face or was a narcissist. That wasn't Johnny, that was Jimmy. Give people a blank slate, just like God gives you when he forgives you. It's a blank slate. We get to start all over again. That's why I kind of say thank you for second chances. Yeah, we realize it's probably my 1,000th chance, but because God forgives me and gives me a blank slate, it's like I'm starting fresh with no history. You know how you go on your computer and you clear your history, your browser history, and all of that? That's what God does. He clears your history. So whether you're with Johnny in a new relationship or you remain with Jimmy in the present current relationship, when you forgive either of them, well, Johnny hasn't done anything, but if you forgive Jimmy, Jimmy should have a clean slate. He should have a clear history. There should be no more, hey, back in 1847, when you did A, B, C, and D, you shouldn't be bringing that stuff up. That's when you truly forgive. And here's what I want to say to you. There are times our mouths say we forgive because we're trying to continue on with the person we're with, or we want a new start with somebody else. But the truth of the matter is, you haven't forgiven. Andrea, how do you know I haven't forgiven? I prayed, I sat with my emotion, I threw it away, and it's no longer bothering me. Oh, really? Let that person say something or do something that hurts your feelings. That's the true test to know if you've forgiven somebody. If you immediately, without thought, go right into, well, when you did You haven't truly forgiven. What you've done is pushed what they did to the side. You swept it under the rug. You buried it, but you didn't forgive it. Because if you have truly forgiven, there should be no talk of what they did 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago, 20 years before. That should be a brand new conversation. Yeah, you'll remember, hey, I got to be careful because I know there's a possibility that this could happen, but I'm not going to guarantee it. I'm going to let them have it. I am going to trust that when they ask for forgiveness, they are not going to do to me what they did last time. Okay? That's one thing. The other thing I wanted to say is what I said in the beginning. Just because you have forgiven someone does not mean that you allow them back into your life in the same position. You may have seen me post, just because I forgave you and you have the title doesn't mean you have the same position. See, we have titles, right? Sometimes you could be supervisor, that could be your title. Husband could be your title. Sister could be your title. Cousin could be your title. But just because you have those titles does not necessarily mean you have that position. Andrea, what do you mean? If I separate myself from you, you are no longer my husband, my supervisor, my sister, my cousin, my whoever. If there's distance between us, you might still have the title, but you don't have the position. You're not in position in my heart to hurt me the way you did before. You're not in the position to be in my stratosphere, my atmosphere, my neighborhood like you were before. Because when you hurt me, one thing was clear to me: you have the possibility of hurting me again. And though I may forgive you and never bring up what you've done, don't remind you of it, don't talk about it because it's forgiven, I'm not going to entrust you to the heart space you used to have. And that's what a lot of people get mixed up with. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. Forgiveness means I am not holding you to what you did. I am going to let it go. I am going to allow it to wash away. I am going to allow you a clean slate. I am going to allow you a clear history. However, though I've forgiven you, I'm not going to reconcile with you, meaning you can't break bread with me anymore. We're not going to be on the phone chit chatting like we used to. I'm not going to share my secrets with you like I used to. I am not going to allow you the space, the resources, the tools, or the time to be in position to do to me what you've done to me previously. Forgiveness, reconciliation, two different things. Every person you forgive, you do not have to reconcile with. But the Bible calls us to forgive everybody. Okay? I want you to be clear. Are we clear? Just because I forgive you does not mean I am reconciling with you and you can be in my presence. You cannot sit at my table. Remember, doesn't it say something about he prepares a table before your enemies? Well, some of those enemies that get to see the table but don't get to sit at the table were once people who were close to you, were once people who you loved and had in position in your heart. They had the position but somehow fell off. So now, even though they can see you being blessed, even though they can see your table is full and filled, they can no longer partake of the blessing or the food or the whatever it is because they are no longer reconciled with you. Okay? I just want us to be clear because there are going to be people who say, well, I forgave them, but what? I forgave them, but every now and again, I remind them of what they did to me so they'll know I was hurt. Baby, you haven't forgiven. There are times where you forgive somebody in word only. And there's nothing wrong with that because forgiveness is a process. Can I share something with you really quickly? Because I don't want to take too much more time. It took me over 30 years for me to forgive my biological father. The hardest part of forgiving him was him continuing to do the things that kept hurting me. Isn't it hard to forgive someone when they keep doing to you what they were doing in the first place? You want to forgive them, but they doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And you're looking at them like, I'm trying to forgive you, but how can I? Or do you find it hard to forgive someone because they're not sorry? They're not repentant. They never came to you and said, I apologize for what I did to you. I know I hurt you. I'm so sorry for how I moved, how I went about doing this or that. I'm here to tell you that forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for you. Forgiveness is to allow you to release them. Don't you know when you're not forgiving, when you have unforgiveness and art and anger, it allows you to become bitter. It allows you to have resentment. It allows you to have rebelliousness. It allows you not to sleep at night, not to eat. And mind you, while you're having all this negative emotion and negative feelings and negative outcomes, that person is skipping along, la da 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 da, not thinking about you. And sometimes that's the worst part. They're living their lives la vida loca while you sitting here, I'm mad, I'm angry, I don't trust nobody, looking like you were dipped in lemon sauce. Oh, not lemon sauce. I'm thinking about lemon pepper wings. Lord have mercy. Lemon juice. And they're living their lives. So I want to say to you today, forgiveness is required by God. He asks us to forgive everybody. And if you need help forgiving, talking to God is one of the best resources in helping you to forgive. Talk to him and get it all out. Lord, they're not sorry. They're not repentant. They could care less about what they did. They're moving on with their life. Help me to let them go. I don't want them to have power over my emotions. When I see them, I'm angry, or I cross the street or go a different way so I won't run into them. Or if they text me or call me, I'm like, ugh. Nah, I don't want them to have their power. They already did what they did to me or to my loved one or to a friend or to family. I don't want to give them more power. So help me to release them and what they did so I can move on. Here's something else I want to talk about, and this brings us right to the text. Sometimes the person you have to forgive is someone that you have to be around. Sometimes the person you have to forgive is the person who shares your house, who shares your bed. Sometimes the person you have to forgive is someone really, really close to you. And not only do you have to forgive them, but God calls you to reconcile with them. So you really, really have to work on forgiveness. Like my biological father, I had to forgive him. God told me that. He didn't tell me why. My mother was like, forgive him, because if he dies and you don't forgive him, you'll feel so bad. It'll haunt you for the rest of your life. She told me that over and over and over and over and over again. And I wanted to forgive him. I cried. I was tired of hearing about her, or hearing from her to forgive him. I wanted to, but it was so hard because he kept messing up on me, messing over on me. doing things to hurt me. He kept doing it unconsciously, consciously, I'm not sure, but it kept happening. And then I took this class called Making Peace with Your Past. You guys have heard me say this over and over, and I think I'm going to have to host another class, facilitate another class. And it took me bearing my soul in a letter and then burning that letter to let the letter represent my feelings. He had no more control over them. And I was going to love him in spite of what he had done and who he was. Because I had to realize he may never change. That leopard may keep his, I'm about to say stripes, his spots for the entirety of his life. What am I going to do? Am I going to be the bitter person that keeps bringing it up, keep holding on to anger, disappointment, let down, all those feelings, bitterness, resentment? Or am I going to let them go, realizing he's never going to say I'm sorry, realizing he doesn't even understand? And can I add this? There was a point in time I went to him to talk about it because I really, really wanted to forgive him. So I went to him to talk about it, called him on the phone because, as you know, he was a real yo-yo in my life, in and out, up and down. You know what I mean? And I called him and he actually answered the phone. So I was like, oh, serendipity. Let me get it out right here, right now. This is the perfect chance. And he said to me, I don't want to talk about that. I can't handle that. And hung the phone up on me. So now I had all this unforgiveness. I had all these feelings of resentment and bitterness. Let's add it onto it that now you don't want to talk about it. You caused this. You're the adult. You're the grown up in this relationship. I'm coming to you to say you hurt me and I want to forgive you. So let me just get this off my chest. And you want to say, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. So now I have to forgive those words plus all your actions and activities. It wasn't easy, but it was doable. But it took time and it took constant prayer, constant confession, constant honesty to God. Like, I want to forgive him. But it wasn't until I listed out everything he did as if he were standing in front of me. I had a conversation in a letter as if I was talking to him. And I cried and cried. I want to say that paper, that letter was 4 pages back and front or 8 pages back. It was long. I didn't call him out of his name, but I said the things that affected me. What he did or said or didn't do or didn't say that affected me, all the way down to the men that I chose to date and or marry because of my unresolved feelings for him. Didn't blame him for my choices, but I let him know the reason that I kept choosing wrong was because of my unresolved conflict with him. And I refused to do it any longer. So I gave it all to him. Take it back. I don't want it. Never talked to him about it, but the crazy thing is God will test you. And maybe a year or two after I wrote that letter, he in his lifetime, my biological father had 3 strokes. I'm sorry, 2 strokes, 3 heart attacks. The last heart attack took his life. But I had to come in when he was suffering because I was his only child and, do the paperwork, make sure he was set up right. If I had not forgiven him, there's no way I would have been able to do it. Not only that, had I not forgiven him, they would have never had the contact information for me. So there would have been no way for them to reach me. But it's because I was in his life that they were able to get in touch with me. And because I had forgiven him, I was able to take the steps necessary to make sure he was taken care of. And then later life, he did ask me to forgive him. As a matter of fact, every single time I talked to him, he would cry and ask me to forgive him. And I said, Dad, I forgave you years ago. You do not have to bring it up. But it was the guilt that he felt because I didn't bring it up. I never talked about it. I never mentioned it. Once I had that one shot to try to talk to him and he said he didn't want to, never brought it up to him again. Never said a word. All I kept saying is, I love you. That's it. And when he would say, I want you to forgive me, I would say, you're already forgiven. There's nothing you have to say. You don't have to apologize. You're forgiven. It's already done. So, great segue into what we're talking about today. And if you are with me, 1 Corinthians 13, verse 5, the D clause, love keeps no record of wrongs. And I want us to go into a story where this is showed so clearly, or shown so clearly, and that's the book of Genesis. If you have your Bible, please turn to Genesis, the 45th chapter, and I'm going to read verses 1 through 15 for you very quickly. I'm reading out of the New Living Translation. You can read out of King James. Anyone that you have, the story is the same. Joseph could stand it no longer. There were many people in the room, and he said to his attendants, out, all of you. So he was alone with his brothers when he told them who he was. Then he broke down and wept. He wept so loudly the Egyptians could hear him, and word of it quickly carried to Pharaoh's palace. Verse 3, I am Joseph, he said to his brothers. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were speechless. They were stunned to realize that Joseph was standing there in front of them. Please come closer, he said to them. So they came closer, and he said again, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery in Egypt. But don't be upset, and don't be angry with yourselves for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. This famine that has ravished the land for 2 years will last 5 more years, and there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. God has sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive and to preserve many survivors. So it was God who sent me here, not you. And he is the one who made me an advisor to Pharaoh, the manager of his entire palace and governor of all of Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and tell him, this is what your son Joseph says. God has made me master of over all the land of Egypt. So come down to me immediately. Verse 10. You can live in the region of Goshen, where you can be near me with all your children and grandchildren, your flocks and herds, and everything you own. I will take care of you there, for there are still 5 years of famine ahead of us. Otherwise, you, your household, and all your animals will starve. Verse 12. Then Joseph added, look, you can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin, that I really am Joseph. Go tell my father of my honored position here in Egypt. Describe for him everything you have seen, and then bring my father here quickly. Weeping with joy, he embraced Benjamin, and Benjamin did the same. Then Joseph kissed each of his brothers and wept over them. And after that, they began talking freely with him. Okay, so let's get into it. Love keeps no record of wrong. Grace was demonstrated. You know the story of Joseph. If you don't, I want you to go back. I think it starts in, what is it, chapter 30? Don't quote me, but I believe his story does start in chapter 30 of Genesis. You know, I'm going to look it up before we're done today. You'll see everything he went through. He was one of 12 brothers. Well, at the time, 11, because I don't believe Benjamin was born yet. Or if he was really young. He was one of 12. And his brothers were jealous of him. He and Benjamin came from Jacob and Rachel. The other brothers came from various other women, Leah being one of them. Rachel was Jacob's favorite wife. He loves her beyond reason. And you know the story. We're not going to keep going back, but beautiful love stories, right? So he favored Joseph. The brothers would be out. Joseph would be more kept in with the father, with the mother, learning, book smart, doing those kind of things instead of being out herding and shepherding and all the other things that his brothers did. So there was already a problem. In that, his father gave him a coat of many colors, and he had not given the other brothers a coat of many colors. So there was jealousy there. Joseph had this dream, two dreams actually. One involved just his brothers. Well, it was the stars that bowed down to him. And the brothers were offended, like, oh, are you saying because there were 11 stars that bowed down to this one star that you're the star? Then he had a second dream that involved not only the stars, but the moon and something else that represented his parents. And so his father was like, wait a minute, are you saying that all of us are going to bow down to you? But then his father thought about it and knew that those dreams came from God. Doesn't talk too much about what happened too soon after the dreams. However, there was one particular day when the brothers went off to shepherd and do what they do, work in the fields, and the father, Jacob, sent Joseph to check on his brothers. His brothers saw him coming and immediately wanted to hurt him. Of course, he had on his coat. You know how we do when we get something that we love. We wear it all the time. We floss. We show it off, you know. And so Joseph walked up to his brothers, and at this point, they had schemed that they were going to kill him. However, his oldest brother, Reuben, was like, no, 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 no. Don't kill him. Let's just hold him here overnight or put him in the pit for a moment. Let me think. Because Reuben actually was going to have him escape. But it didn't happen that way because some men going to Egypt came and they sold Joseph to them. When they realized what they had done after they stripped him of his coat, they realized they were going to be in trouble with their father. So they needed to come up with this plan to make everything okay. So they killed an animal, dipped Joseph's coat in it, lied to their father and said, hey, an animal killed Joseph. You no longer have a son. Wham, 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 boo hoo. That was not really what happened, but that's what they sold their father. So, of course, Jacob was distraught, ripped his garments, and went into immediate mourning over his son. Meanwhile, Joseph was taken to Egypt, sold to the Egyptians, made a slave. Boy, this is a long story. Y'all better read because this is one of the, I'm telling you, the Bible is like the best soap opera on the planet. Trust when I tell you. Okay, where are we? He was sold into slavery, but he did well, right? And so he was given a promotion to be over the other slaves. Then Potiphar needed help. Joseph went into Potiphar's house as a leader there. And Potiphar's wife was attracted to Joseph because Joseph was a handsome man, young man, and tried to bed him. He was like, no, I'm good. I don't want that life. I have respect for my supervisor. I'm not going to do this to him. So she lied on him, said that he raped her. He ran so fast, he ran out of his jacket. It ripped. So she was like, see, here's proof. I have his clothing. I fought him off. So now Potiphar is angry. There's so many stories that I want to talk about when it comes to Joseph, but we'll get to that in time, future time. But right now we're just trying to get a summary of what's happening. So she told Potiphar a lie. Potiphar, for some reason, believed it, threw Joseph in jail. Joseph was in jail. Whew, boy, those accusations, man, can cause problems. Be careful of lying on people. Be mindful. Be mindful. That's all I want to say about that. Joseph is in jail, pretty much forgotten about until two men are placed into jail, sentenced to spend time in jail. I remember one is a baker, right? And one was the cup holder. I forgot his official title, but he is the one that would sip to make sure that there was no poison for the king. And Joseph had a dream about the two of them. Or they had a dream. I'm sorry. Boy, I'm about to mix up the story. Joseph interpreted their dreams. One was going to go back to the castle to serve the king, and the other one was going to be beheaded. So the one that was going back to serve the king, I believe it was the cup holder, he said to him, "Don't forget me. When you go back to the kingdom, tell them about me. Tell them I'm innocent. Tell them I helped you. Tell them something. Just get me out of here." And he was like, "Of course, I'll never forget you." And what happens that always happens to us when we say we're going to do something later? We forget. Good segue point to say, when you promise somebody that you're going to pray for them right then. Don't put it off till later. Later sometimes never happens because we get so caught up in our day, so caught up with distractions and just regular life, we forget. So if you tell somebody you're going to pray for them, my habit now is to pray right then. Even if I don't do it out loud, even if it only lasts 10, 30 seconds, pray. Okay, let's continue moving. So he gets back to work, forgot all about Joseph, didn't think about him until Pharaoh had a dream. He had a dream and no one could interpret it. And the cup holder remembered, hey, there was this guy in prison that interpreted our dreams and said that I would be back in the castle. And look, I'm back in the castle. Maybe if you tell him your dream, he'll be able to help you. Okay, so we're going to fast forward real quick. He told Pharaoh what the dream meant, and Pharaoh put him in charge of the land, in charge of Egypt, second only to him. Okay. Woo, what a story. Okay. From the pit to the palace. That's what they love. I love that. I love it. I love it. Anyway, in that story, all the things that his brothers did to him, Joseph showed grace in verse 15. In verse 15, let's go to it. He says, then Joseph kissed each of his brothers, the Bible says. Then Joseph kissed each of his brothers and wept over them. And after that, they began talking freely with him. Joseph gives his brothers grace. He doesn't send them to jail. He doesn't beat them, whip them. He doesn't restrict them from the land. He doesn't have them to starve. He doesn't do to them what they have done to him. He gives them grace. He cries, he kisses them, he welcomes them in, and they begin talking freely. So we can imagine what that conversation was like. It could have been, this is what you've missed all these years. He could have told them the story of everything he had been through, not to make them guilty, but just to show them, this is why I am where I am. Here's my family, anything, but they were freely able to talk. Grace is demonstrated itself in verses 5 through 8. 5 through 8 says, but don't be upset. And don't be angry with yourself for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. This famine that has ravaged the land for 2 years will last 5 more years, and there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. God has sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive and to preserve many survivors. So it was God who sent me here, not you. And he is the one who made me an advisor to Pharaoh, the manager of his entire palace and the governor of all of Egypt. So this is grace demonstrated. Not only did he say it's not your fault, but Joseph also showed them how God was the one who manifested where he was. There are times when people are going to do things to you, and it's for a greater good. And even as you're not recording the wrongs, repeating over and over and over, that's why I like to think of recording as, you remember when back in the day we used to have cassette tapes and we would put them in our boom box or our radio, and we would record things on the radio, songs we wanted to hear and play, and we would press play, then rewind, play, rewind, play. We do not record. It keeps no record. But not only does it keep no record, it doesn't keep recording and pressing play, rewinding, pressing play, rewinding, pressing play. That's what I like to think of when I think of this scripture, when it talks about keeping no record of wrong. Don't keep rewinding what people doing and rehearsing it to them. Don't keep rewinding and playing it back to them. They know what they did. And even if they don't apologize, they still know what they did. But if you have truly forgiven them, you won't keep pressing play, rewind, pressing play, rewind, pressing play. You will release it. You will let it go. Um, Joseph told them, don't beat yourselves up. Don't blame yourselves. Feel no guilt because there was a bigger plan at stake. Me, myself, have gone through a lot in my life. I thought, because I had gone through so much, okay, that's enough. Give it to somebody else. Let me just relax and calm down. I had a very serious situation happen last year. I'm not going to go into it, but I'm going to say this about it. It was the toughest situation I have ever faced, and I've been through some storms. You know it. I talk about it. I wrote it in a book, The Storms That I've Been Through. This was the worst storm out of everything I've been in. And it caused me to sink low, to go low, to hit rock bottom. It caused me to hit rock bottom in every area of my life, including spiritually. And I was angry, hurt, upset, depressed. I wanted vengeance. Oh, it was so much. Then God came in, as he does, and had a conversation with me. And he said, I need you to see the bigger picture. There was a reason what happened had to happen. And it had to happen the way it did because I have something bigger for you to do. Now I'm sitting here broken, depressed, beat down, beaten, just rock bottom. And I'm looking up at God like, what? You allowed this because you had something for me to do, something for me to gain, something for me to learn. Whoo, what a lesson. But I want to share that part of it to tell you that there are times things happen to you because there's something bigger involved. And if the situation did not happen the way it happened, you would not be aligned for that situation. You would not be aligned for the next level or the next step or the blessing or the breakthrough or whatever it is that God has for you. So even though you want to crucify the person or people or the situation, sometimes you have to sit back and say, okay, I would have rather it not happen like this, but I'll respect what happened because I realized there was something bigger at play. Now, let's get to the points of this. Number one, remember, our subject is love keeps no record of wrongs. Number one, in order to release a grudge, you must show your heart. Woo, in order to release a grudge, you must show your heart. Let's look at verses 1-3. Joseph could stand it no longer. There were many people in the room, and he said to his attendants, out, all of you. So he was alone with his brothers when he told them who he was. Then he broke down and wept. He wept so loudly the Egyptians could hear him, and word of it quickly carried to Pharaoh's palace. I am Joseph, he said to his brothers. Is my father alive? But his brothers were speechless. He had to tell them not only who he was, because he looked different when they saw him last. He was a teenager. Now he's a grown man. Not only did he tell them who he was, but he got emotional in front of them. He wept. He wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard it, and word got back to Pharaoh's palace. This is the number 2 man. They could have looked at him and been like, we got this guy crying. You want him to be in control of the land? He can't handle it. They could have used his weakness and his weeping and his sorrow against him. But he didn't care. He showed his heart. When you want to release a grudge, you got to tell your heart. Whether it's to that person, whether it's to someone standing in their stead, whether it's to God, whether it's to a therapist, whether it's in your journal, whether it's a letter like I did, you've got to tell your heart unadulterated, and you cannot be fearful of what people are going to think about you. You have to get it all out, because if you don't, there's going to be that tiny piece of resentment, that tiny piece of bitterness, that tiny piece of rebelliousness, that tiny piece of vengeance that is going to be sitting there because you didn't get it all out. You got to tell the truth. You have to put a spotlight on your feelings, a spotlight on your emotions, and get them out. He wept. Those were years that he was weeping about. Because in his mind, I know what he thought. He went back to him being a teenager. The last time he was with his brothers, he probably looked up to them. They probably were his heroes, and they didn't even know it. They thought he had a different agenda, and he didn't. He was just telling what God gave him. And that's a word for someone. There are times you're not going to be able to tell what God told you because there are people waiting to cause your downfall. So there are times that God gives you some information, you just got to keep it to yourself, or tell one trusted person, or write it in your journal. But you can't tell everybody, because everybody is not for you. Everybody's not rooting for you. Everybody's not on your side. Everybody's not cheering you on. There's some jealousy. There's some envy. And sometimes it's the people that are the closest to you. It's a spouse. It's a sibling. It's a parent. It's a best friend. Sometimes the person who you think would never, ever be jealous of you, never be envious of you, never plot your downfall is the very one who does. So be mindful of talking too much. All right, let's go to point 2. In order to release a grudge, you must see God's hand. Ooh, this is a good one. In order to release a grudge, you must see God's hand. And that means change your perspective. Verse 5 through 7, let's continue. But don't be upset, and don't be angry with yourselves for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. The famine that has ravaged the land for 2 years will last 5 more years. Down to verse 7. God has sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive and to preserve many survivors. Joseph let them know that God sent him through everything he went through. It was all a setup to help the family in the future. Because had Joseph not gone through what he had gone through, he wouldn't be in position to help them through the famine. He wouldn't be in position to help other people through the famine. It wasn't just about his family. It was about all the people who didn't or wouldn't have wheat. He had to be the number 2 person because his skill set, his talents, his giftings made for a very good number 2. Everything he had gone through set him up for the position he went to. Sometimes we ask, why did I go through what I went through? It was horrible. It was terrible. The worst thing ever. I barely made it. But that storm, that struggle, that inconvenience, that pain that you went through set you up for where you're going to. And where you're going to is not just for you, not just for your family, but there are people who are looking for a solution. And you are an answer to a problem that they are having. Let me go to number 3. In order to release a grudge, you must save the home. That means save their hearts, take action. That's verses 10 through 11. And they say, you can live in the region of Goshen where you can be near me with all your children and grandchildren, your flocks and herds, and everything you own. I will take care of you there, for there are still 5 years of famine ahead of us. Otherwise, you, your household, and all your animals will starve. I will take care of you. He had to save them. He had to take action. Otherwise, they would have starved. They would have died off. He would have lost his entire family. He went through all that he went through in order to save the very family that persecuted him. Think about that for a minute. They did all this stuff to Joseph, lied on him, took his coat. They robbed him like he was not a relative, robbed them of something that was given to him by their father, dipped it in blood of an animal, lied to their father, broke their father's heart. I mean, they had to look at their father, mourning, weeping day after day for his son, knowing they caused those tears, knowing they did wrong. And every day just live life like they didn't do it. They had to live with what they did. And even though they did all these things to him, did all that stuff to his parents, do you know in that time his mother passed? She died. Joseph didn't even get to be with his mother. He never saw her again. I need you to get how serious what they did to him was. Now their father is an old man. He missed out on time with him. He missed out on time with his mother. He missed out on time with his younger brother, Benjamin, because of them. Yet, he forgives them, doesn't hold aught, releases any grudge he may have had. We don't know if he ever had a grudge, but it wasn't there anymore. And said, what you did, you only did because God sent me here so I can save you and everybody else. So even though you did these bad things to me, I'm going to save you and your family and your generations to come as I save the other people of the land. And as a matter of fact, I got somewhere for you to go that you could just spread out and live your days. Not just you, but your kids, your grandkids, your sheep, your goat, whatever you have. And live. Not survive, not struggle, but live. And live in abundance. Because him being second in charge, he's got money. He's like, I'll take care of you. You don't have to worry about any expenses. You don't have to worry about coming out your pocket for anything. I got you. And meant it. No hidden agenda, no strings attached. I'm going to take care of you guys. I got you. No mention of, oh yeah, so that coat that my dad got me, that my dad made for me and presented to me, you remember that? You remember when I came to check on you, make sure you were good, and you threw me into a pit I couldn't climb out of? You remember y'all were plotting to kill me? You remember those guys that were headed to Egypt came and you sold me to them for some coins, some silver? Remember that? No, he didn't do any of that. Instead, he said, God sent me here so I could save our family. And I'm saying to you today, especially in relationship, in marriage, in romantic relationships, especially, I especially want to say this. We're not all perfect. None of us. None of us is. Only Jesus. And none of us are Jesus. We're going to make mistakes. If you truly want your marriage and your relationship to work, there comes a time when you are going to have to release grudges, where you're going to have to forgive and sit in that marriage and sit in that relationship, not run from it, not run away from it. You're not protecting your peace. You need to sit in it because this is where God called you to be. There are some relationships and some marriages God called you to be in and to sit in and to grow in because you are there to save each other, or you're there to save him, or he's there to save her, however it goes. But if God called you to be together, there's some things you're going to have to forgive and let it go. And don't bring it up. Even when it looks like it's the same thing, different day. You know what you do when those moments happen? Pray. God, listen, I have forgiven this joker. I let it go. However, he didn't learn his lesson. He's doing the same thing, but God, I'm going to give him to you. Or vice versa. Lord, she's doing it again. I already forgave her. She got a mouth on her and she just going and going and going and going and going and going. Lord, I'm going to give her to you. That's your daughter. You called me to be in this marriage. You called me to be in this relationship. So I'm going to give her to you. I want to walk away. I want to let it go. I don't want to be bothered. I can do bad all by myself. There's 15,000 other people that could replace them. And God's like, no, they're not. No, they're not. Not if he called them to be. No, they're not. And you really have to pray, Lord, help me to forgive. Lord, help me not to bring it back up. Lord, please help me. That's a real prayer. I prayed all the time. Help me, Lord. Help me to forgive. This is what I have to forgive. And sometimes you don't even remember what they did. You just remember you're mad. You remember you put out. You remember you're angry. You remember you're disappointed. You remember you're bitter. And you don't even know why anymore. So now it's really time, Lord, you know, that little piece of bitterness or resentment or anger or being let down, whatever that is, Lord, can you remove it? Can you let it go? Can you get rid of it, Father? Because I want to move ahead with this person because you called me to be here. Now I'm talking about family situations. Now I'm talking about jobs. I'm talking about everything in life because there's always going to be somebody that's going to make you angry. Somebody who's going to hurt your feelings, somebody who's going to disappoint you, somebody who's going to let you down, someone who's going to lie on you, someone who's going to spread rumors about you, someone who is going to use your name in something that you were not even involved in ever. And you're going to have to forgive them. But it doesn't necessarily mean because you forgive them that they need to be in your face, in your space, or in your place. You have to be the one who decides that. I am talking about relationships that God calls you to. There are some family members you just can't allow in your space because they are detrimental to your peace. They are deadly, they are distracting, they are stress-filled, they are drama babies. And you just cannot let them back in. On the other hand, there's some people who make mistakes and they're really sorry. Even if they don't say sorry to you, they are sorry and they'll be better. They'll try to do better. How do you discern the manipulator versus the person who's really trying? It's in your spirit. And if not, pray and ask God, and he'll let you know. But it doesn't matter regardless if they're a manipulator who will continue to cause drama and drama and drama and more drama, or if they are really trying to be a better person, you got to forgive them both. You got to let go of the grudges. You can't hold that unforgiveness, that anger, that hurt, that disappointment. You got to let it go. God calls us to forgive everybody. Now, the choice for them being in your life, that's up to you. You and God. You decide if you want them back in your life. But no matter what, you've got to forgive. Love, true love, real love, keeps no record of wrongs. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you.